all the starters are on the bench, and you've got your second team, which probably is starters a lot of places, out there on the floor, and how satisfying was it for you to see those guys play so hard and hard defense and pull ahead?
Yeah, I thought our bench played really well, especially they gave us some energy in that first half and came in and really got us going. But, Daniel played well. Seems like Daniel's been 5 for 5 in both scrimmages and both exhibitions. He might have been 5 for 6 in one of them. And then Gicarri has really shot the ball well in practices all summer. And so to see those guys, I thought Homer did some really good things. I thought Antoine West really gave us a spark there. But the next guy up. Obviously we timeshare today, and a lot of people got a lot of minutes, and that was good to see. But I thought our bench played really well.
Thanks, man.
That is the biggest luxury with this team that you haven't had in recent years, the ability to, pluck 8 fouls between 2 centers. With Zach, you couldn't foul. With Trey at the center last year, you couldn't foul.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world when both your centers have 4 fouls that you can go to Trey Kaufman right at the 5, right? And so, which we played a lot that way. And there'll be times we do that, this year. But I like our size. I like the ability, and they both got a screening foul. I think they both had a rebounding foul. But you just got to work through some of those fouls, work through some of those turnovers. That's where a majority of our turnovers came from. Was our front line. TK had 2, Oscar had 3, Daniel had 3. Liam had 1. So, our front line's got to do a better job of, not turning the ball over. But I like their aggressiveness. We have to stay aggressive. We have to do a good job, rebounding the basketball on both ends.
Right. Just the ability to turn defense into offense. Kind of a big difference with this team with the rim protection and what Gicarri was able to do today, right?
Yeah, it's Daniel got some blocks there. We only had 3 as a team, but I think he changed more things, and he's got to get more blocks. I thought he had 2 or 3 opportunities to be more aggressive and block some shots, but it's also you're a little passive once you get into foul trouble, and you can play a little cautious there. But I think with our depth, that we just have to do a better job of those guys understanding that they got to stay aggressive on the defensive end. But there's no doubt that's going to help us, right? It's to be able to throw Oscar out there, throw Daniel out there, having TK, then the other 2 guys can really stretch the floor, and Liam and JB.
Matt, 2 of Gicarri's 3s came off of jack screens, and just him and Benner in general seem to have a good synergy together. Is that something you've seen over the summer and in these 2 exhibition games?
Not particularly between 2 guys, but I just think that anytime you're in practice a lot, especially when you get to where things can get set here for about a week or so, 2 weeks, and then you're just you're with somebody in practice a lot. So I think you can have that synergy and just kind of the understanding of what makes a play work. I think Omer did a really good job on a couple plays there in the first half. One of them was G's 3 when he scored that 8 straight points to really give us a spark before the first half ended. But no, it's just any of those guys of just understanding the little things of what makes things work.
Where do you see Daniel now in kind of this place between the growth, the physical growth, the confidence he probably has grown in a year, but then also just still, I guess, the inexperience of being a second-year guy and still maybe feeling his way through some things?
Yeah, I think that's where he is. He's in that growth stage of figuring some things out. We said it last year. He plays better in games than in practices. Doesn't mean he struggles in practice, but he just does. He does some really good things. And tonight, if it's a real game, he plays more in 16 minutes. Gicarri Harris plays more in these games, and that's what we're going to have to be able to understand as a team. Is that when we do have some of those guys that come off the bench and play like a starter, they're going to get more minutes. I think you saw it last year in that role, with the 3 guys that played alongside of Braden and Fletch, whoever, played better, whoever shot better at times, we would just stick with, because that's what we needed. But that was, the roles are so important, the lobs, and And then sometimes when you have a passer like Braden and you have a lob threat like that, now when they start taking those away, now he's just setting up people for wide open threes. And that's what you want. You want people to say, hey, we're gonna take away Daniel Jacobsen's roles. Well, then we're gonna play in a drop. So if we're gonna take away his roles and play in a drop, you just give Braden Smith freedom to maneuver. And so like now, people love to be aggressive with Braden. And when they are, Daniel's on the move. And now he's there. Now you've got that lob threat. And then when they pull all the way in and you get those skips, like now you're having a three. So that's, it's more than just his dunks and those twos, because they'll lead to people, being worried about it. And now when we can have the balance of dunks, layups, lobs, and wide open threes, that's what normally wins the day.
Hey, Matt, talk about your senior leadership, how unique it is. You've got guys that have been in your program 4 or 5 years, which just doesn't happen that much in college basketball. But how special is that for you to have those guys there to teach these young guys?
Yeah, no question. The best thing they can do is, lead by example. And especially when things don't go their way, I think that's the key for any good team. When, you compete with a lot of the same people. And so anytime somebody, gets that opportunity to play a little bit more than you because they've played well, just supporting them shows a lot about your character. And that's what makes great teams. And I think that's what's going to make, our team this year is that we have that good senior leadership and they understand that. And every night's not going to be your night, but when you have a deep team, but you got to be happy for other people. And I think we have a team that is. Like, I know a lot of those guys are, extremely happy for Gicarri. It's how people don't understand how hard it is to come in as a freshman and then play 10 to 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes when your whole life you've played all the time. And now you're trying to jam in, 32 minutes like a high school game or 40 minutes like a college game into 15 minutes, and it doesn't work that way. And it's more difficult than people think.
Coach, despite Braden's only 22 minutes, he only takes 4 shots to get 7 assists. With how deep you guys are from a scoring front this year, is he going to have more of those games where he's just pass first and doesn't get as much of the looks he wants himself?
Yeah, well, I think more than anything, like he can pick his spots. So like, sometimes guys can't go get their own shot if they want, he can. And so like if he wants to be more aggressive, he will. If a lot of it depends on how they're defending. So if they're gonna hedge high, they're gonna get up there. It's not the only part of the game, but it is the pick and roll is a big part of what we do. And so if they're gonna get out, he's gotta get the ball out of his hands and get it moving. And he understands that. And so like, yeah, you could have some games like this. I don't think you'll have a lot of games like this. But like, if you win by 43, like you'll take it, right? But no, he can hurt you in a lot of ways. But sometimes what people don't understand, especially people who don't understand basketball, is you got to take what the game presents. And each game's a little bit different. And if they want to take the ball out of his hands, he can't force that. He's got to get the ball out of his hands and get it moving, and now they're in a rotation and they're behind plays. But if they're not going to take the ball out of his hands, then he needs to be aggressive. He needs to look to score. He needs to look to manipulate the defense. And obviously he's proven to be pretty good at that.
Mike and Winston.
Matt, how big of a weapon can Gicarri's three-point shooting be for you guys?
Well, I think just anything. Like, you look at, Trey Kaufman-Wren's ability to short roll and then pass the basketball. Oscar's a good passer. Obviously Braden is an elite passer. Fletcher's a ball mover. And, I think when you have somebody like Fletcher that you just absolutely don't want to leave, if you can put guys like CJ out there who was 2 for 3, G's out there 4 for 5, and now Braden who shot 40%, when you have those 3 guys to go with great size, that's what you want, But, it's great to see, more, for some of those guys, just more for their sanity than anything. Like, yeah, you want some opportunities and sometimes you don't. Because like I talked about what the game presents, and you have to be able to execute, you have to be in the right place at the right time, but as a player you want more opportunities. Sometimes it's hard for other guys to have opportunities when other guys dominate the basketball.
Sam and Brian.
And when do you anticipate the final decision on red shirts and what this roster is going to look like entering the Evansville game?
Yeah, we'll talk before then. Let you guys know.
Brian, do you want it?
Yeah, please. I think part of Oscar and Daniel both picking up fouls was having to meet guys at the rim, where do you kind of see your communication? Where do you see the dribble containment
Yeah.
being right now as the season approaches?
Yeah, we have to do a better job. And you know, when they got to the paint, they had some success. When they didn't, they didn't. And I don't think that holds true for everybody, you know, but it's definitely an indicator. Like you have to, like, you know, what you want offensively is the ball in the paint as much as possible. And what you want defensively is to keep it out of there. And so we have to continue to work on that. And as we play people in different systems and different styles, like, you know, we'll have to, from a schematic standpoint, do the best that we can. Because we do have good size. I think that's important. But skill will stretch out your size. There's no doubt about that. You put a lot of shooters out there, and you're going to have to guard the arc and be out there. And like I said, like each system, each program, each style will cause different issues, and we're just going to have to keep working at it.